or social engineering. Sorry, any type of social engineering is kind of just manipulation in a way. So
That's right. We have the new term. I remember this from my training when I worked in retail. It's social engineers, guys. It's not grifters anymore.
yeah, we also call them influencers.
Oh, social influencers. Yeah. We have a mechanically speaking. We must talk about mechanics for a moment. Our brand director had shared with us a little conversation that's been ongoing, and it's a tricky topic to discuss, I'd say, but we wanted to look at it from a mechanical standpoint. Anyone else feel charm, person, and command are a little ick as spells? Hashtag D&D5e, hashtag D&D. I think the reason why is because you're essentially commanding somebody and kind of taking over their will.
Yeah.
As a mechanic.
Well, I think the issue that people have with it isn't so the mechanics, it's the idea of making something do something kind of against their will. The whole matter of consent being an important thing in life, and taking away someone's ability to consent to something is not typically good.
And it's
let's say not typically good.
And it's not good in terms of role playing where people have essentially free will to use their characters. So if you're presenting a monster that can do that and take away agency from the people who are controlling their characters, or if you have players that can do that with monsters, it becomes a problem, to say the least.
I think the issue is generally the concept of these spells, like the descriptor of the spells, not given the mechanics of the spells.
Sure.
So if you have both of those parts, then we can go over that.
Certainly. Let's start with Charm Person. Start with Charm Person. So it's a first level spell for anyone who doesn't know, and it's done by a whole bunch of classes. Don't worry about that. You attempt to charm a humanoid you can see within range. It must make a wisdom saving throw and does so with advantage if you or your companions are fighting it. If it fails the saving throw, it is charmed by you until the spell ends or until you or your companions do anything harmful to it. The charmed creature regards you as a friendly acquaintance. When the spell ends, the creature knows it was charmed by you. And then, of course, at higher levels, you can target additional creatures for that. That's not particularly as egregious as the other one that we're going to be talking about.
Right.
It mostly just says that, it's not going to attack you.
It just generally will be more, predisposed to be good to you. Like, hey, what's up, buddy?
Right. There's nothing in the language that specifically states that you can then make the person do anything, except that it does know that it was indeed charmed by you. It does make me think a little bit about the idea, you didn't play Psychonauts 2. I don't think. Okay. So in Psychonauts 2, this topic actually gets addressed after one of the first levels. Because in that game, Raz, and Psychonauts as a general rule, have to go into people's heads to try and figure out what their problems are, and try to solve their problems in their psyches themselves. One of the first people that Raz does this with, he does so without them really telling him to do that, and he tries to cheese this so that he can try and get them to think something that they didn't think before, for fairly selfish reasons. And then, in the second version of the psyche, realizes he's made a mess of things and has to kind of rectify it. And the conversation that he has with that professor afterward is about the idea that you can't just go around messing in people's heads without them knowing or consenting to it. They have to be willing to do that. We have a responsibility as Psychonauts to do that. And that's a teaching lesson. And every one of those interactions after that is where Raz is kind of like going, hey, could I just peek around in there for a little bit? I might be able to figure out what your problem is. And then them actually signing off and saying, oh, yeah, that would be great. and going from there. It would be how you decide to utilize it.
Sure, I could see, like, someone playing one of the stereotypical seducer bards, using Charm Person and then trying to, go further than that. But that creates a roleplay opportunity. Just because they're predisposed to be friendlier to you does not mean that it's an instant, like, getting pants free card, as it were.
Right. They're more amicable towards you. And I swear that most of the people that are asking about this have probably encountered a bard specifically. That was the stereotypical Lothario bard that wanted to use this.
I can safely say I've not encountered a bard of this type in any game I've played or been in.
And I did not play a bard that was like that.
Thank you.
Well, and the thing about it is that bards are so interesting as a class, and they don't have to be that way, and probably shouldn't all the time.
Yeah, it's very, very, I feel like it's very shallow role-playing anyways.
It's very shallow role-playing, and it wouldn't be something that Max wanted to do anyway, because he's a rock star. He just wants to, like, make music and be famous and stuff. He doesn't really have very much interest in, seducing the barmaid or whatever. It doesn't matter to him. So that kind of brings us on to Command. And Command is a little bit, from a technical standpoint, I think it's going to be a little bit more iffy. But let's just read through it. I'll tell you what's going on here. It's a first level spell. This one only has a duration of a round. Charm Person is an hour. So this is a much more limited amount of time. But according to this, it's you speak a one-word command to a creature you can see within range. The target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or follow the command on its next turn. The spell has no effect if the target is undead, if it doesn't understand your language, or if your command is directly harmful to it. Some typical commands and their effects follow. You might issue a command other than one described here. If you do so, the DM determines how the target behaves. If the target can't follow your command, the spell ends. And there's a list, and I'm just going to tell you what those are, which is just approach, drop, flee, grovel, or halt. And then at second level, you can affect additional creatures with it. And these are fairly basic things to make the creature either, drop what they're holding, or move away as fast as they possibly can, or fall prone to the ground, stuff like that. It has to be a one-word command, so you can't get real creative.
You can still get pretty creative with one-word commands.
Disco.
Disco, yeah. Just stops, drops, and...
Yeah, just boogie, oogie, oogie, so you just can't boogie no more. I guess it's good that they at least put that in, because at least it makes it a little bit more difficult to try and figure out how to abuse that system.
I think the issue there is where you get players who want to just sit down and go, all right, what word do I want to use? Kind of like the players who are going to sit there and, contractually write out a wish spell.
Write out a wish spell, yeah.
Get a lawyer to go over it first to make sure it's legally binding and they can't fuck it up.
Or try to figure out the 25 words they can use for a sending spell, because they only have a limited number. Yeah. That's always fun. That doesn't slow down anything. Technically, you could command a creature to do something against their will that, I guess, was probably not very good. It does specifically state in here, if your command is directly harmful to it. It has no effect.
Part of the issue with command is that you're making a creature typically do something against its own will.
Right. In the same way that, Charm Person has that problem.
Charm Person, at least, you're not making someone do something against their will. They're just kind of more amicable to you, as we kind of went over.
Right.
Get in the comments if you want to fight about it. It's fine.
Sure, yeah.
Just kind of being friendly towards someone is not quite the same as forcing someone to do a thing. It's very different to say, oh, yeah, I work in retail, so I'm going to be predisposed to, if someone's trying to be charming, I'm going to be like, hey, you're doing great, thanks. I'm going to be friendly to them, just because it's easier to deal with in a lot of cases, so,
Right, yeah, that's more of a charisma kind of thing. But they made it into a spell, and I think that's where the problem comes.
The difference there is, being just kind of charmed is fine. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just kind of, hey, nice to see you. Yeah, you're doing great. Hey, you're whatever. Just being friendly, amicable, being generally better vibes than you were.
Sure. Yeah.
But making someone do something against their will is definitely where I think a lot of people draw the line, because the whole consent thing.
Sure.
Where you could just use a skill check and try to persuade someone to do something.
I was gonna say, yeah, there's so many things you can do from a charisma standpoint, from an actual...
Or an intimidation standpoint.
Yes, you can have intimidation, you can have deception, but there's a lot of ways that you can actually charm people by actually using your skills, not spells.
I would say if you wanted to use command and tweak it as a GM, you could make it tied to a social interaction skill. Maybe you want to intimidate someone, or maybe you want to charm them a bit more. If you want them to do something nice for you, or if you want them to flee, you can intimidate them and just make it more effective. Sure, roll intimidate with advantage.
Yeah.
For instance, or pair it with that to see how successful it is.
Okay, I have a thought. I have a thought that would actually fix this. We can get rid of these two spells. We can just put this one in. Is a spell almost like an aura or a buff for your character to make them more to make it easier for them to influence people. You get advantage on these checks or something like that, because then you're not directly influencing somebody else's head. You're not taking that person's head over, essentially. Yeah. You're enhancing your own ability to influence them.
Yeah, and it's still not the greatest, I think, because exerting control over another living creature, or another human, or another humanoid, for instance, is still kind of a contentious point, and I get it. It's not a magical compulsion.
What is the one that, there's another one that I want to...
Suggestion?
No. The more egregious one, which would be... Yes! Dominate person.
Oh, yeah.
That one...
Let's go into that one really quick.
Yeah, let's go into that one real quick. You attempt to beguile a humanoid that you can see within range. It must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be charmed by you for the duration. If you or creatures that are friendly to you are fighting it, it has advantage on the saving throw. While the target is charmed, you have a telepathic link with it as long as the two of you are on the same plane of existence. You can use this telepathic link to issue commands to the creature while you are conscious, which it does its best to obey. You can specify a simple or general course of action, such as attack that creature, run over there, or fetch that object. If the creature completes the order and doesn't receive further direction from you, it defends and preserves itself to the best of its ability. You can use your action to take total and precise control of the target. Until the end of your turn, the creature takes only the actions you choose and does not do anything that you don't allow it to do. During this time, you can also cause the creature to use a reaction, but this requires you to use your own reaction as well. Each time the target takes damage, it makes a new wisdom saving throw against the spell. If the saving throw succeeds, the spell ends. Okay. So, you now...
That one's far more egregious, yes.
That's a problem, because now we're actually issuing commands that they have to obey.
Yes, or taking control of them completely.
Yes. And in some of these cases, even though we may not think of it as, directly harmful, if you're telling it to go attack that creature, and it's a giant, we're probably doing some serious harm for that creature.
You know how I would fix this spell?
How?
Just blacklist it.
Yeah, just say no, you can't have this one. And the interesting thing here, too, is that this is technically a charmed command. They use the same wording for it of the target is charmed as they do
I did notice that, yes.
in Charmed Person. But the effect is significantly different.
Yeah.
It's significantly different than that one. So...
Yeah. So for me, I would say if I had a player who was like, oh, I'm taking Dominate Person, I'd be like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
We're gonna sit down and talk about how this spell... Or I just at the beginning of the game be like, this is a spell that's not in the game. Because just not okay on a lot of levels, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if you want to play in a game where you use it, that's up to you. But, like, personally, I prefer to have players who I know aren't going to try to take the spell and do shady things. Like, not, like, shady, let's go steal, rob a bank type things. Just, like, shady, morally ethical things.
Mm-hmm.
With it, yeah, I would just blacklist it. I'd say, yeah, this is not a spell. Like, if you can blacklist Magic the Gathering cards from not being able to be played, I can blacklist spells that I don't want appearing in my game.
Sure, yeah. The other thing that I've noticed some of the comments down below, so I had to reread this, is that it apparently does not, even though like pre-4th apparently it had a specific thing about not being able to issue a specifically self-destructive order, and I noticed that they are right.
Well,
this doesn't seem to
harmful.
Have that. Yeah. Okay.
Anything self-destructive would become harmful to itself.
Right. What I'm saying is I don't think there's anything in the description that says that you can't issue a command to them that would be harmful.
Oh, in Dominate Person?
In Dominate Person, yeah. There does not indeed seem to be a requirement that it can't hurt itself.
I think the big thing to remember with any of those spells is that a creature, generally speaking, is going to act on self-preservation. In most things where you see anything like that, even there might have been a Doctor Who episode. If you remember that, they had all the people in the town like get up on the roofs and they're like, we're gonna tell them to jump. And it's like, yeah, you can't make people do something that'll actually like hurt themselves. Like, they can get up there and stand on the roof, but you can't get them to jump off it.
It's interesting though that there doesn't seem to be anything specific in the wording of it, since we're doing the mechanical part, that specifically says that they can't. And considering that actions such as attack that creature or run over there are some of the ones that they give, run over there off that cliff, or just stand here where the boulder's gonna hit. Just stand here. It's fine.
I mean, if they don't know it's gonna be harmful, is it really self-preservation?
Exactly. Then we get into the whole conversation about, like, hey, if we know it's gonna be harmful to them, but they don't know it's gonna be harmful to them?
Yeah, I mean, stand here on this X isn't necessarily harmful, but if you release a boulder, or if they know that there's a boulder above it that's gonna fall on them, I think they would, be able to be like, I don't like Dominate Person. I don't think I like that spell at all, really, honestly.
No, it's not good. I don't want this one. I think that it's bad, and people shouldn't do that one. I don't know if it's necessarily as egregious as if we stab them, as rogues would usually want to do.
Sure. I mean, any type of manipulation, or social engineering, any type of social engineering is kind of just manipulation in a way, so...
That's right. We have the new term. I remember this from my training when I worked in retail. It's social engineers, guys. It's not grifters anymore.
Yeah. We also call them influencers.
Oh, social influencers. Yeah. That's got to be a subclass for one of the things in the future.
It should be.
That'd be great.
Just a rogue celebrity that's a social engineer. Part-time murderer.
Yeah. They have their own version of Instagram, but it's just them like putting posts up on the post boards in the different towns.
There you go.
Anyway, hey, that's a form of influencing, so that's something. Maybe we could get that rolling. I think that one of the ways, though, like I mentioned before, that we might be able to do this is to work more on relating these to either feats or abilities or something that makes your character more influential or able to talk to people through these things, to make allies, make friends, that kind of thing, instead of utilizing the spells. Because I think that's really where the heart of this problem is that it's the spell itself, that we're utilizing a spell.
It's the compulsion effect, not being able to resist it, rather than, say, if we're just having a conversation, I can just influence you myself, as we were just saying. Where when it becomes magical, then it's like, hey, you either have no choice or you have to make a saving throw, which in either case you still have to make a saving throw, but it's not magical. It's like, do they think that you're being genuine?
Right.
Or do they agree with you? Or, how are you dealing with them? Like, you're being very persuasive, There's a difference between that and just going fingers in the air, waving, and suddenly they're your brain slave.
Yeah, I think that the problem becomes when you start to take a character beyond what their normal social interactions would be, like their range of social interactions, and you create a spell that will drag them past that.
Yeah.
So in that way, even like a charmed person is like, if you have a person who doesn't like people as a general rule, they might not naturally be amicable or friendly toward anyone.
Sure. And people like that, I might give advantage on the saving throws.
Sure. But I think that it's just that idea that we're going to take it past what those characters would normally do, and we're going to influence them in a way that they don't have a choice to act outside of the range of what they would normally do.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't like it if it was my character that was getting charmed. I certainly wouldn't like it. And I don't think it's good for the monsters to do it, and I don't think it's particularly great for the characters to do it, even if it's to monsters, because it does add a level of control over what is supposed to be a very open-ended sort of experience with role-playing games, where your characters have free will. You kind of go in with the idea that everybody has free will, and that takes it away.
A little bit.
In some of these cases, a lot.
A lot of it.
Dominate person, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
Full minute duration, by the way. Concentration spell. Yeah.